Hey, Cindy.
Hey.
How are
Hi.
you? So you got little Kate to bed?
Yes, finally.
Wow. Took a while,
Yeah,
huh?
he's got an ear infection, so he's not happy there right now.
Oh, I'll send him some positive energy so he gets better soon.
That's what we've been doing. He's been sick for like 2 weeks with the croup and now an ear infection, so
Wow.
it's been a mess. We got it handled. We're doing good. He's on medicine, so hopefully he'll be better pretty quickly.
That's good. So what's been going on with you since we talked just over a year ago?
Well, I mean, everything's on the up and up. Everything's good. I've been making a little bit of headway as far as, getting the word out and trying to reach people that need help. I've actually had a few people contact me that were having trouble, and I was able to direct them to certain groups or investigators that are kind of in their area that I knew were reputable, so that they could get some help. So we're working on that a little bit. It's going pretty well.
That's good. I saw your post today about people not believing or maybe not understanding what a negative haunting is.
Yeah, I think that, and it's largely due, I think, to all the attention as far as all these shows that have recently popped up on television about negative hauntings and demons. It seems like they're all kind of gearing up to go in that direction and to make it out like every haunting is a negative haunting, which is completely not true. And it's causing a lot of people to assume that if there's a bump in their house, so that means that there's a demon. And I see it a lot. A lot of people actually message me asking me for advice that I don't know, and they want to know, do I have a demon? And the possibility of it being something negative or inhuman it's not rare, but it's not common. Mm-hmm. And what I've found, it's more than likely in 80% of the cases, it's not a haunting at all. And in the 20% that it is, very few of those are actually a negative haunting or something demonic. So there are a lot of negative connotations that are attached to it, purely because of these shows and people watching, movies like The Exorcist and Poltergeist, and they've had these resurgence in remakes and things, and people are quick to jump to that, and they have this preconceived idea in their head of what it is to go through a demonic haunting, and it's caused a big stigma, in my opinion.
Right. And my father has been saying and complaining that he sees things, or maybe like a couple of days ago he come downstairs and I was working on swinging the beads out, and because Mom wanted to make another rose or anything like that, and she brought another light in so I could see better. Turned the light on and the bulb blew out. And then she went into the living room and brought another light in. Same thing happened. And my father said, "No, it's because he brought that ghost in the house." And
well, yeah.
And my mom had saw a good friend of ours, and she explained again and verified that if we had a ghost in the house or we had something negative, we would know it. I mean, it would clearly let us know there was something there, not just, a light bulb burning out.
Yeah, you have a valid point there, because I'm telling you now, if it's something negative, you're going to know that something's there. You may not know in the beginning that it is something negative, and these things are really good at masking themselves as something else, whether it be a loved one who has passed on recently, or a child spirit, which is very classic, and people have said that a lot, that, you're gonna know, that it's something, and especially if it's something negative. People, want to equate like a knock on the wall or, a sound they hear as being something negative. But you're right. I mean, it's going to make itself known. They're not there to be quiet and sit in the shadows and just kind of linger. They're going to let you know they're there in some form or another. And it's probably going to be something that you're not going to like. It's going to lead eventually to that. It may build up to it. It's going to build up to a point where you cannot ignore it, and where there is something there that is not supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on orbs? I know that there's been talk about it. I've even captured some different things flying around and changing direction in my apartment here. What's your theory on that? Do you think it's possibly something earthbound, or a spirit that's earthbound just roaming through the hall, so to speak?
I think that's probably in the paranormal community such a touchy subject. Orbs are. I believe that there are authentic orbs, and there is energy activity that you can equate to orbs, and you get them in pictures. A lot of it, of course, you have to debunk it as dust or moisture because it's an environmental issue. But yeah, I think that as much as energy can take shape into something else, I mean, if it can, if it can appear in a space that it was not before, that there's something to be said for an orb. And I mean, I suppose that it can be something positive as much as it could be something negative. We actually got some stuff like that. I mean, it was energy that we got on camera in the house that I lived in a few times, and they were odd. They didn't look like a normal dust particle. Some of them were different colors, and they emitted their own light. You take it in a room that's dimly lit, or where there's nothing shining at you with no flash, and you get something. I mean, you can't just discount it. But I think it could be. I mean, it could be either. It could be something positive. It could be something negative. If this is the way that a spirit is trying to manifest, then I mean, I would think that they could all, that they would all use this as a means of forming and kind of collecting energy together to do something or to appear.
Mm-hmm. I got a hurricane lamp. I brought a hurricane lamp over here that was my grandmother's, and pretty much every night I'll see spears of light just blinking coming from that direction where the lamp is sitting, and it'll like pulsate bright light and just go across the room or change direction. It does that quite often over here. I don't know if it's
Is there a color? Do you ever see? Is there a color that you see when it pulses or blinks?
No, I just see it on the infrared cameras. It just pulses white.
Ah, okay. We actually, Jason has seen it as well. We've had a few incidents where we've been, in bed in our room, and we've actually seen these flashes of light, and we've seen balls of these orbs. They're orbs, and we've seen them with the naked eye, and they have floated and been very bright. I mean, they get brighter and brighter, and they'll actually make just kind of like, it's almost like a little sonic burst. And we've seen this on more than one occasion. That's unsettling. It's because they're really bright, and they're always, the few times we've seen it, they're always blue, a really, really vibrant blue. I've seen it out of my peripheral vision, numerous times. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's coming from in our house now that we have an object we have, or because we like to collect antiques. We do. We're thrift store rummagers. We find something old, we love it, we're going to bring it home. So, I mean, I know that's not like smart as far as, avoiding spirits, but it's something that we like to do, and we're careful about it. But yeah, if it's your hurricane lamp of your grandmother's, that's pretty amazing. I mean, that would lead you to think that maybe she's sort of, trying to communicate with you through that.
Because I've heard, stories of spirits connecting with objects, and I think
Absolutely.
Maybe it's possible. Yeah, I think it's possible that some of Graham's energy could be floating around that lamp.
Oh yeah, I definitely believe that. I've been a little more sensitive since everything happened. I mean, like right before and during and after, and there are times when we go to antique stores or thrift stores, and there are certain things that I'm extremely drawn to. I mean, to the point to where I can hear things about this object, just, it's hard to explain how I hear it, but I can hear it. It's almost like someone speaking to me, but it's in my head. And I can get things from these objects, and there are some I will not go near. But, yeah, I definitely subscribe to the idea that spirits can, if they're not attached to these things, then be, still sort of have a bond with whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, if that holds true for objects, it can hold true for homes and places and, land. I mean, anything. I think people don't understand that spirits are everywhere. I mean, they literally can be everywhere, and they can be anywhere at any given time, good and bad. And I think people underestimate the fact that they're exposed to it as much as they are. If they really understood how, I'm not going to say people are vulnerable, but that anybody is susceptible to it, I guess is what I'm saying, whether you believe it or not. And there are things that you can do that put you more at risk. But, I mean, anybody really is susceptible to it, whether it be a human spirit or a non-human spirit, which, it's not easier, I guess, to be haunted by a negative spirit. But, I mean, it can happen. It happens. It does happen. I think it happens more than people think. I'm not saying that possession itself happens as much as some people want to think it does, but just having negative energy and negative spirits around, they're around more than you think they are. Mm-hmm. They definitely are.
Right. This is like your experience, just a simple, go out for the evening ghost hunt, could turn into something.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a shock. Wow. That was, we had actually gone to that house and gone inside during the day, that day. And, I mean, it was creepy. And we did see, we saw a few things, and there were places in the house I could not go. I couldn't do it. There was something that just would not let me. But I really didn't think twice about it. And I thought, it's a case of the heebie-jeebies, you'll be fine. But that night when we went back, it was a completely different vibe, and it was hard to get out of the car. We never made it into the house that night. And that moment, that event completely changed me as a person. I mean, as much as they show it on the television episode, it doesn't hold a candle to what really happened. I mean, I can't. It's hard to put it into words. I don't know. If people could feel that sort of fear, they would probably think twice when they start to pick up a Ouija board or, do a seance. and I'm not saying that, everybody that does these is going to get successful, but there are so many people out there that want to go ghost hunting, or that want to dabble in, the occult or play around with stuff. But if you don't have some sort of knowledge about these things, even ghost hunting, even that, it's best not to mess with it. It's not a hobby. It's not something you need to do as a pastime because it's fun or for an adrenaline rush, because, it can happen. You can go out 100 times, and when you go out 101, something can happen. And to me, I equate it with being a surgeon. If you're a surgeon, if you're not a surgeon and someone comes up to you and says, hey, I need an operation, just because you want to be a surgeon, you're not going to say, hey, okay, I don't have experience, but I'm going to operate on you anyway. It's that concept. Mm-hmm. If you don't really know what you're dealing with, then you don't need to do it. It's a risk. It's a risk you're taking when you do this, but I don't think people realize the magnitude of that risk sometimes. Mm-hmm. I really don't. That night was something that, of course we will always remember, but that was sort of the beginning of not the incident, not everything that happened. That wasn't what caused it to happen, but that was definitely what brought it out. And I'm still not sure why it was that house, or it was that time, or it happened when it did. I don't know if it was because I was so scared and afraid, or because it was just an opportunity at that point. But that was the beginning, and that was the first night that the possession actually manifested physically, and it did it in a very harsh way, and it took me several days to recover from that one incident.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you being afraid kind of opened the door for the thing to manifest or show itself to you?
I think that, and we're pretty sure at this point, having discussed it with Father Darren Simpson, who actually performed both exorcisms, and, doing some digging and researching on my own, we're relatively sure that whatever, that this was something that was already there. Mm-hmm. And it was something that had been present for a long time. But I think that maybe because my level of just, I was weak at that point, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I was pretty broken down, mm-hmm. and not just from that, from being afraid, but from everything that had happened in, like the year span of time with Jim dying and everything else that went on. I was just really broken at that point, and I was weak. And I think that was the perfect opportunity for this thing to kind of jump in and take as much control as it possibly could. And I mean control physically, mentally, emotionally, absolute control, because they wait and they are patient. And you can forget about them, and you will, but they're not going to forget about you. They don't operate on the same level of reality that we do, as far as, how we perceive time. They don't, and they don't have to worry about time running out, because they've got time. That's what they have. And they don't forget. And I think it just waited for the perfect chance to take over and to be able to get a foothold in me to the point where it could really influence my thoughts, my actions, at times my physical body. Mm-hmm. And it started to kind of get to know me on that level and what it was like to control me. And I didn't know it at that time. We thought it was an isolated incident, but at that time, that's what was starting to happen. And there was a sort of a numbing effect after it happened. And there was fear. I was scared to death. Of course, I was afraid, but it was almost like it started to intertwine with me and kind of interweave itself into me on every level. So that there were times when I didn't know, is this me or is this not me? You know, after I knew there was something else there. I couldn't tell sometimes. I didn't know where that line was. And I didn't know which thoughts were my thoughts. And that's the scary part, because you're thinking things and you don't know, you know, they're not typical, and they're scary, and you're thinking, what's wrong with me? And so after that night, it had started kind of moving that direction, where it wanted to have full control, and it was trying to get complete control of me at that point. So there are steps and there are stages, and I think everybody knows, you know, the stages of you know, the typical stages of possession, and starts, you know, with haunting and things around the house, and it moves to, you know, becoming more violent, and then you know, fear and oppression, which leads to possession. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. I really don't think you can put, you know, you can kind of come up with a formula on how these things operate. I mean, it's not the same all the time. They don't have a rule book to follow. They're acting on their, I guess, what their existence is and what their instinct is, if they have instinct. But they're definitely acting on that. And as much as it started to kind of integrate with me and learn me, I was learning it at the same time, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, but that's the best way I can put it, is that it became a part of me as much as I became a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Has your awareness heightened since your experience?
Absolutely. It definitely has. I'm really, really careful about it.
Mm-hmm.
I call it a switch, and it's a switch that I don't flip on very often, and I'm pretty good at keeping it flipped off. But there are times when something is so strong that there's no ignoring it. And, you know, there are spirits, human spirits, that will come up to me, or, you know, come to me, however they do it. I don't know. I'm not an expert at this. I don't pretend to be. I don't pretend I know what the heck I'm doing, because I don't. But I do know that there are spirits that come up to me, and there are times when there's something they want to tell someone, and I don't have a choice but to listen. But I don't do that. And I'm careful, because if I tell people, then they're going to want me to dig more. And I don't do that, because I don't know if that's really a person, or if that's this thing or some other thing like it that, you know, is trying to, I'm not trying to learn, you know, how to hone this gift, or, you know, whatever, because for me, it's too dangerous. Mm-hmm. And so I don't do that. But yeah, definitely, more aware. I can tell when this, you know, and I say this thing because, that's just kind of how I leave it. We don't mention names, at all. We just don't. And you know, most people know why we don't do that, but we don't. And, so I can tell they don't ever, I think people think that when you have an exorcism, or when, and by the way, I don't really feel like you can exorcise a building. I think you can cleanse a building, and I think you can try to expel things from buildings and structures, but I really don't think that exorcism is something that can be done on a structure itself.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're done on people, when there's an exorcism done, I think people don't consider, okay, well, if you have this in you, this or these, however many there are, sometimes there are more, and this thing is pushed out of you, or it's made to leave. What happens? What happens after? What does it do? Does it stay in the house? Does it stay? Does it leave? Do they go? A lot of people I think are under the impression that they have to go back to hell or wherever they came from, and that's not true. When they are expelled, they have to go somewhere. They don't just disappear, like you see on movies, how they just explode and are completely gone. That's not what happens. They are there. Mm-hmm. And they're predators. And predators need prey. And they are either going to keep targeting you, and they can bring all their friends to help, or they're going to find someone else to target eventually. They're not just going to go away. They're not just going to stop, and they're not just going to leave you alone because they were commanded to leave. It's something that you've got to be aware of all the time. This is not something that just goes away on its own, which is why so many people who have had exorcisms done, there are usually more to come in the future. And it's a self thing, primarily because you've got to learn what it is in you that has been easy or made it easier for these things to target you. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of self exploration that has to be done, but not just by you. You need help with this. But the point is that they're going to try, and if they can get back in, they're going to get back in. They're not just going to say, oh well, he said leave her alone. Let's get out of here. Your house has got to be cleansed. You've got to be diligent about that. You've got to be diligent about the certain signs. You can't ignore things. I have had, since the second exorcism, I've had quite a few incidents where it has tried to do the same things, where it's tried to get back in and attack me. And I know when it's going to happen. Jason knows the signs. He knows what to look for too. And I'm good about being able to tell him what's going on. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. They don't care where you're at. They don't care if you're in public. They don't care if you're at a church. That's not going to stop them. They're going to keep trying. So you have to really know what to look for. But yeah, they're not going to just go away. They're not going to, happily ever after it's a loaded term. Mm-hmm. When it comes to dealing with this stuff. It definitely is. It's not. There's not a cure-all, fix-all for it, and it's like, okay, it's over. It's not a movie. It's not like an hour and a half of your life and then everything goes back to normal. It goes back to normal, but you always have to not have your guard up so much, but you have to pray a lot, and you have to grow your faith, definitely. Right. Otherwise, it can wreak havoc, because you can live in fear all the time, and we choose not to. But I'm sure it happens. I'm sure it happens to people, and they're afraid and don't know what to do.
Right. I talked to so many people, that not so many, but other friends of mine and other people that have been on the show who have had demonic infestations happen to them, and a lot of them tell me they got stuff going on, but it's nothing like it was, but there's always that possibility that it could come back, and they reach out to their church and their faith to stay strong, so things don't happen again, right? Yeah,
you have to, and you have to have a support system. That's a key element in just keeping a positive light around you, because you cannot do it by yourself. I was big about I can do this, because I didn't trust anybody. Mm-hmm. And after a lot of things I've been through, I trusted me, but I didn't trust anybody else, and I didn't trust God. I could say, oh yeah, I trust you, but I didn't, because I was so afraid of other people doing things and helping me that, I didn't want to get hurt again. So I was very much closed off from everybody. And that was a big part of the entire experience, was the isolation. And if they can isolate you, which they do, and they're pretty good at it, that's huge in being able to manipulate you. And now I've got an awesome support system, and it grows every day. It grows all the time. There are people that I've never met, that I've never spoken to, who are the most amazing, gracious people. And a lot of them, they know who I'm talking about. I don't have to name names. And they are so supportive. And if they think in any way that I'm having a hard time, they'll be the first to message me and say, hey, it's okay. We're sending you positive energy. Keep your head up, and you know what to do. We're here. And that is a powerful tool to have in your pocket. The people that helped me during both exorcisms, the people at RGPI, Cheryl, Claudia, Michelle, Dan, all of them. They're amazing people, and they're heroes to me. There's no way that most people will walk into a person's house and within an hour of meeting them, see them just being thrown around on a couch. And I wish I could remember everything, but I can't. But to see someone go through that and to really have an intent to want to kill them, and they stayed there, and they helped. They never left. They never said there's nothing we can do or we're not going to help you. They helped me, and they were threatened during that time. There were several of them who were threatened by this thing, and they did not waver. And they are dear friends today. They are people that I'm lucky to have in my support group and in my life. You are one of those people. There are several that just, I don't know what I would do without them. And that goes a long way. And I'm sure these other, people who have had these negative experiences will tell you the same thing. When you have people who believe you, not just believe in you, but believe you, and understand that, they're not going to understand your point of view. They're not going to understand, as far as the things that I went through, they're not going to be able to identify with, what it does and how it feels, but they're there to remind you that it's going to be okay. And they're there to remind you no matter what happens, you're not going to be alone. So if something happens again, then I can call on these people. I have something there, to fall back on. And I know there are people that don't have that, and probably don't even know what's happening to them, Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine being in a place and not being able to get help, being in that place. And there are people, it's not just the people who are going through it, but, the people that they're closest to. I can't tell you Jason's entire perspective, but I think for me it would be harder to watch someone go through this than it would be to go through it, because I've been through it. But, I'm sure he'd tell you differently, but that's got to be a hard place to be in when you have someone something needs to be done, but you don't know who to turn to or what to do. That's a scary notion. And the fact that this stuff doesn't go on forever. There's going to be a final outcome to negative entities being around. They're either going to be pushed out or something's going to happen. It's all going to come to a head. And a lot of times people don't realize it, but a lot of times when these things are involved, it ends with the taking of a life, whether it be suicide or someone who kind of goes nuts and kills one of their loved ones or hurts them. It happens, and that's what their goal is. And I think it'd be interesting to find out, how many suicides that people didn't expect. How many suicides have something like this connected, where there's a negative haunting? You don't hear anything about that, but it's definitely something I think needs to be looked into, and to see, if these people got help, could you stop? Could you maybe not stop it? I don't know, but maybe be able to hopefully prevent something horrible from happening.
Mm-hmm. I wonder just how many people that turn to drugs, turn to heroin, or something like that may be going through a haunting or possession, and turn to that for help or for to kind of forget about it.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure a lot of them. Some of them maybe might think that when they hear voices that it's them going crazy, that they have like schizophrenia, and I would see where people, even if they didn't have addictive tendencies, would go to something like that to stop it or to try to shut it off. There were times when I didn't, where I couldn't sleep because this thing was there in my head. It was just talking, and if that's not a reason to use drugs, I don't know what is. It's a scary thought that you sort of end up doing what it is they tell you to do. Mm-hmm. The influence becomes more than just, feelings. You actually will be able to hear this thing telling you what it thinks you should do, or almost giving you commands on you need to do this and give you reasons why. And when you're that broken down and shook up, the reasons start to become pretty valid in your head. It doesn't seem so far-fetched and unreasonable. And I can see, I can definitely see why, they would turn to substances to combat that. And even further, I think that, some of these people who do go to maybe local mental health agencies, who can't afford good psychiatric care, would go to these places and get diagnosed with certain mental issues and be put on God knows what. I actually went through a time where I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Wow.
And I didn't hear you.
I said, wow.
Yeah. I went to, actually, and one of the reasons was because I was hearing this screaming. And, excuse me, it's dry out here tonight. I was hearing literally screaming, like a million horrible screams at one time. And there was one point where all I could do was just curl up in a fetal position on the floor, alone in the house. That time the kids were at school. And my husband then, Jim, was at work. And I just covered my ears and I would just sit there and cry because I didn't know how to stop it. Well, they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder and they put me on rounds of medications. I don't even remember what they were, but it was a good 10 or 15 different medications in a 2-year span that they put me on. None of which helped, of course. It did nothing. It just made things worse and made me feel worse. But some of them were addictive medicines, and I just decided to quit taking them. They were doing no good. But I can see where people who, have these things going on would be on God knows what. It's even prescribed to them, and really not know what's going on and just be clueless. Back then there was no manifestation, but, it's easy to fall into the trap of, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I did that even after everything happened, and I knew that it was there, but it would still try to tell me I'm not real and you're going crazy. And even since then, it's like, you sit and wonder, did this really happen? And maybe, it tries to tell you, maybe it's just in your head. Maybe you just, all that was just something mental. And you start to think that, but then I remember that it wasn't just me affected by this, and that I wasn't the only one that experienced it. And that keeps me grounded. But I can see where not only drugs, but even, instance where people do things. You hear in the news of these women who drown their children.
Right.
And they say that Satan told them to, or, these people do god awful things to people, to kids and other people. And they say, the devil did this. In fact, there's a documentary called Cropsey, and it's about a mental institution in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And there was a man who was a patient there, and when he was let out, he actually worked as an orderly there. And Geraldo Rivera did actually a piece on this that got the place shut down, about mental institutions and the horrible treatment of, the patients. Well, this guy kept living in the basement of this place, this facility, after it had shut down. And several years later, kids had gone missing in the area. I don't know, maybe 12 of them did.
Wow. And
this guy was finally arrested and charged with the murder of these kids. And literally, when they took him to jail for 2 days, he did not speak. His eyes rolled back in his head. He was foaming at the mouth and making noises and hissing. For 2 days, he was incoherent like that. And he claimed that there was something inside him, and still does. And they locked him away, which of course they need to. But it's cases like that that make you wonder, maybe these people aren't really crazy. Maybe there is something attached to them. I don't see where there would be a better example of it than that. When you see somebody in that state and you've been through it, it's easy to recognize what it is. And, why wouldn't that be looked at? Why couldn't you look at that and investigate? It seems to me that maybe when people say it was a demon, or it was, the devil that talked to me, and maybe that should be taken at face value, at least investigated,
Right. I've seen people that do crimes like the mother that tried to drown her children in a bathtub, and see their faces posted on the news and on the websites. You can almost see something not right just by looking in her eyes, that there's something not quite going on that's normal.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot, Jason and I, when we, there are certain stories that you can watch. We watch kind of crime drama and shows like that, and there are people that you can just see it in. You look at them and it's just not right. And there were times when I looked to myself in the mirror and I was just not right. I can look back at pictures that were taken, or that I took even. It doesn't look like me. It's really hard to explain because it's very subtle. It's hard to put your finger on it. It's not something that stands out, but yeah, it's hard to look in the mirror and not see you, but to see something else. And people can pick up on it. Have you ever passed by somebody that you don't know in public and you just get kind of a creepy vibe, you know? Mm-hmm. like something's just not right. Or you meet somebody, you talk to them, it's just something kind of off. I'm a big believer in trusting your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I think that there are people walking around who probably don't even know they're like that. But, yeah, there are cases where you can look at somebody and you can almost tell by their movements, by their speech, that there's something else kind of in there. And it's not all them. It's not, but I mean, I think we're innately able to pick up on that. There are reasons for that.
All right.
And, yeah, I mean, we're not given these other senses that we don't really pay attention to for nothing. God put them in there for a reason.
There'll be times that, my mom and I are, out shopping or going to a restaurant and things, and I'll see somebody or I'll hear somebody talking, and I'll ask my mom, did you feel something not quite right with that person? And she said, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So that happens a lot.
Yes. Do you know that there's a show on TV that comes on later. I can't remember the name of it. I want to say, oh gosh, I don't remember. It's a dark-haired woman who, she's a medium of some sort, and I think it's Dead Files.
Okay.
But the way that she speaks sometimes, the way that her movements are, when she says something's around her, you can see when something's inside of her. It's a strange thing. Her eyes get big, and her speech is off. It's really weird. It's very, like I said, it's subtle. But, yeah, it's things like that. I know when everything was going on with me, there were times when I would speak and it was not, I could not believe. I'm like, what am I saying? Mm-hmm. There are things I won't mention. And it's not because they were dirty, but it's because they were terrifying. They were absolutely terrifying. And it's unbelievable, the differences that can occur there during, not just, day to day, but during the attacks. There were times when I would try to hurt myself, and I didn't know why. And there were instances where I'd punched myself in the face. There were times when I had tried to cut myself open. There were, oh gosh, I don't know. There were several things. It was never against anybody else, but it was always directed toward me. And there were times I got angry at people, like very, very angry for no reason. I don't see how people didn't recognize it in me. I mean, even in public, there were times when I just wasn't right, and I knew it. And you walk around like that, but there comes a point where you just don't care. When they take over, I guess, so much, you just don't care. Right. And so, like, right now, I'm having a hard time speaking. It's just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was somebody I had talked to on a show, and he was a security guard, and his friend noticed, something's happening to him. He would have angry outbursts that just the stupidest thing. Why does that person act like that? He needs punched in the head and do things like that. And John would be like, "That's not him. That's not what's going on." And
yeah. That's how it was with Jason. He would say, why are you doing this? Why are you acting this way? And I'm like, I had no clue what he was talking about. I really thought that it was unfounded, and that he was just, being super sensitive. Mm-hmm. I'm looking back. I know he wasn't. And there, when I started to really recognize it, but, there were times I was downright mean. And there were times when I just could not tolerate being around him and just people. I could not do it because everything made me so upset and just so angry. I was appalled at everybody else for acting the way they did. And I was just mad because everybody was just, being normal. Why are they waking up in such a happy mood? And why are they making so much noise when everybody was just sitting and watching TV and talking? And it would just be, to me, everything was hyper intense. Everything was super sensitive. That's another thing too, is your senses are definitely affected, and maybe not all at the same time, but they are. Your sense of just focusing and feeling things, hearing things, that was a big one, because everything seemed louder and everything seemed more intense, and everybody's good mood seemed too good. Everybody's laughing was just too harsh. It would literally make you have to remove yourself from situations because you couldn't, it was too much. It would cause you anxiety and stress. Anything in a religious manner, of course, I mean, people hear that, a cross, will burn you. It's not that these religious items will burn your skin or, holy water burns you, but it's hard to tolerate. It's hard to be around without your heart racing and your skin crawling and everything just getting to be too much. Everything just, it causes you to go into this heightened sense of like panic and anxiety that you can't tolerate. And that in itself will lead into a manifestation. That will lead to your muscles starting to tense up. And that'll lead to your jaw starting to kind of twist and lock. And it'll lead to your breathing getting heavy and your heart starting to race and your every muscle in you starting to kind of just become rigid. Mm-hmm. Your whole body will become rigid. It'll start to hurt and things will twist, and that will lead into, noises that you're not making coming out of you, and just, whatever happens after that, it will, you avoid things like that because you want to avoid this thing taking over you. All right. And a lot of times that's what happens when you have an intense situation, when you are possessed, and when there's a situation that's too intense, whether it be on a positive level or on a negative level. If you're in a tense situation, any sort of extreme in environment or emotion can set this off. Anything at all.
All right. Mom and I went to a few dinners and, community dinners, and just to see what, just to meet people. And we went to this one, and Mom and I carry our religious medals, and she wears St. Michael around her neck and things like that. And there was this guy that came in and sat down, across from her, and he looked at us and started, throwing the food in his mouth and making a mess on the floor and everything, and did everything he could to get away from us as fast as he could. And Mom and I just looked at each other and we're like, is he possessed or what? And we're like,
possibly.
He just couldn't get that food down his mouth fast enough. It's like, what's going on with him? Wow.
Oh, I can see that. Those things act out. They do. They're very childish. I can see that happening. I definitely did that I know there were occasions when I just acted ridiculous just to get out of, to get away, because they just don't like this stuff. Mm. I mean, I know it's everybody's, it's a cliche, but they just don't like it. They don't like religious items. They don't like faith. They don't like happiness. They don't like love. They don't like any of that stuff. And they don't like people who have a strong faith and who are not afraid to to wear that badge around. When we were recording for the episode, they were interviewing me in Atlanta, and it was this warehouse that they had managed to come into town and rent out. It was hot. It was dark. It was during the summer. And there was an AC, but they had to turn the AC off because it was too noisy. So it was hot. And, they had one little area kind of sectioned off. And they had the curtains up, like black curtains up to kind of set the mood for the camera. And there were two guys there. There was a guy named Jeff, and he was the one interviewing me, and a guy named Tim. And this whole time, keep in mind, it was 8 hours worth of interview, 2 different days. But on the second day, it was pretty intense, and this thing was there. It was there. It was wreaking havoc. It was making noise. It was going around. It was bumping into things. It was running. It was blowing light bulbs. I mean, you name it. But there was one particular guy, that guy Tim, and it just kept at me and kept at me. It did not like him, and it told me, tell him I do not like him. And I told him, I said, it did not like you. And he's like, who, me? And I said, yeah, it doesn't like you. It does not like you being here. He's like, what did I do? I said, because there's something on you. He's like, what? I said, it's in your pocket. And I don't know what it is. I said, it's in your pocket or on your leg, and it has some sort of religious meaning, and it does not like it. And he's like, no, there's nothing there. I don't have it. I said, yes, you do. I knew he did, but he wasn't going to tell me he did. And it was not long after that when we started recording that I suffered a full-on attack during the interview. But yeah, they know these things. They know, who's wearing what. They know what your faith is. They don't need, to see outwardly what's going on. They already know. You already have some sort of indelible, not mark, but some sort of badge that you wear that they can pick up on. They know it. And they do not like it when they are around people who know what they are and who can see through that and who are a possible threat. And they will act out and they'll try to stay away from you as much as they can. They just don't like it because you're not a possible, you're not a meal to them. They like easy pickings, and they don't want to be found out while they're lurking around. So, yeah.
Wow.
I can see that would happen.
All right. What are some of the ways you protect yourself now since you've been through that terror and that experience?
Of course, we don't pick up anything as far as, seances or, any Ouija boards or anything, even if it's a novelty sort of thing. Mm-hmm. We absolutely do not have it in the house or near the house or anywhere around. There are things that I was instructed to do by my friends at RGPI and Father Darren. We pray, of course. That goes without saying. I do sage the house. I smudge on a regular basis. I keep a ready supply of holy water. There's a beautiful Catholic church in town, big cathedral, old church, and I go there and take a water bottle and I fill it up on a regular basis. So I go through and I do that as well through the house. The kids are used to it. They're like, oh, there goes Mom again. Sometimes they help me, and I do it with as much positivity as I can. It's a normal, even my neighbors now, they're like, oh, there goes Cindy. I have one neighbor next door, and whenever I smudge, she's like, can you come over here and run it through my house a little bit? So they're really awesome. They're gracious. They're accepting about it, and they don't look at me like I've got a horn growing out of my head, no pun intended. So we do that. We stay positive. We're not afraid. Stuff happens. It's going to happen. It happens that's not anything inhuman, but I'm sure there's little, human spirit business that goes on, but we're not afraid. I mean, my foot might get grabbed in the middle of the night. That'll scare anybody. That'll wake you up from a dead sleep and you'll freak out. But we kind of, just let it slide and don't put a lot of energy into it. We have moments all the time where we're like, what was that? And sometimes we inspect it. Sometimes we just let it go. But, you stay aware. You stay heightened as far as just what's going on around you. You stay away from negativity as much as you can. Negative people. It's not that I avoid, everybody that has everybody has negative days, but there are certain people that are just not healthy. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn who those people are. Love them from a distance. That's what I say. If you have people in your family who are negative, love them from a distance. If this, I have to do that. Right. It's not something I just want to do. I have to. I've got to, and I got to make sure I keep my, my emotions in check. And we're on the lookout all the time. If I start to feel not good, or if maybe sometimes Jason's like, check yourself. Are you okay? What's going on? He does that often, and sometimes it annoys me, but it's necessary. Mm-hmm. And so we're just diligent. We're diligent, and we're happy. And we don't live in fear, and we just stay positive. We do little things, and we believe, and like I said, a support system. That's a big one. Have that support system and people to back you up.
Right. I'll do that when I get over to my mom's house too. Well, I can only stay a certain amount of time. I'm like, Mom, I've been around Dad too long. I got to go. I had enough today.
You do. So. Yep, love you, Daddy, but I got to go. Yeah, I mean, it's smart. Right. It's a smart thing, and it's not that some people are just terrible people, but sometimes two people together, that friction that's created is it can be negative, and you have to do that in small doses, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's something I've learned. I used to be one of those people like you have to help everybody, and I would do it to my own detriment, and I would rather hurt than for other people, to hurt. I would rather take on everybody's pain so that they don't have to feel pain. And, it doesn't matter if I do. And I did that a lot. Mm-hmm. And, I had to learn it's okay to not be the savior. And it's okay for people to hurt. I can't fix it. And, it's not healthy for me to do that. So, I learned that. I learned not to carry around guilt. That's a big one. People don't realize they do that. You do it and you don't realize it.
Right.
And it can be small little things. I should have done this, or, why didn't I do that differently? You didn't. And it's in the past, and you need to move forward, and it's okay, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's another one. But yeah, there are ways to still be a great person and interact with everybody and love everybody, but not to have to deal with everybody's negative energy. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Love them from a distance, so to speak, right?
Yes, that's it. Absolutely. You know some of those people. I know some of those people.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, we probably have Facebook friends that are those people.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. They're going to jump on me tomorrow. You talking about me, Cindy? No, I'm not talking about you. Uh-huh. I would never talk about you that way. No. I'm kidding. We love all of them. They're all great people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wonderful when you have friends in the paranormal realm that you can lean on that support you, and they support what you do. That's awesome.
It's huge. They're crazy. They're nuts. I'm telling, they're just nuts, and they're insane people. They have to be, because the paranormal community is not. You could fill up like a whole year's worth of Jerry Springer episodes about the paranormal community. You just could. Yeah. But they don't take guff, and they're drama queens, and they're all know-it-alls, and they're awesome and amazing, and man, you got to respect these people, because they are literally, so many of these people are out to help others, and they literally put themselves on the line all the time to help people. And in a lot of cases, people they don't even know. And for that, they get the utmost respect from me. They are heroes on a complete different level, because you're going to walk into a place and you're going to face something you don't know about, and you're going to face it for people you don't know. Mm-hmm. But you're going to do everything in your power, because it's the person that you are, and because your heart is in the place that it's in. Most of them. Some of them, but most of them are that way, and they're going to do this for a stranger because they believe in what they do, and because they believe that these people honestly need help. And that's something that doesn't happen all the time, and it's not in everybody. I mean, you know, you overcome childhood fears. You're going to sit in a dark structure, building, house, old, closed down, insane asylum, whatever, all night long with a flashlight and whatever little equipment you have with you, and you're going to sit in this place and wait for something to happen to you. You're going to wait for the boogeyman to crawl out from under the bed or out of the closet and come and get you. And, yeah, I mean, we all were afraid of that as kids, and here these guys are. You know, they're not afraid of the dark. I mean, normal people, again, they're not normal, because normal people will not do that.
Yep.
So, yeah, but you got to love them. I mean, you just do. They're a breed unto themselves, and yeah, I've got a lot of respect for these guys. Absolutely.
That's for sure. Cindy, we're about out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to say, and how can people get a hold of you if they have an experience, or if they've been through something and need support? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can, of course, go on my Facebook. It's my personal page, but they can go on there. It's Cindy Huesel Sauer, which is my maiden name, smack in the middle. But also my public figure page is Cindy Sauer Haunting, and they can reach me there. I post, on a pretty regular basis, and if they message me, I will absolutely get back to them. Either way is a good way to get in touch with me if they need help, if they need advice, anything. Especially if you think that you're dealing with something that is negative, reaching out and taking that first step is huge. And it could be, the step to actually getting help. There is hope. This is not a death sentence. People come through the other side of this kind of stuff. You can be happy. You absolutely can be happy, and there is hope. And that's the biggest part of it is you can't give up on hope. And that's something that I hope and pray that I can offer to people who need it is just hope and the promise that you can get through this and that you can be whole again.
Awesome. Cindy, I want to thank you. It's been great talking to you. I think we waited a little too long to talk again, but I'm glad
I agree.
We'll have to talk again.
Well, you know what? I'm around, and well, you know how to get in touch with me. But yeah, just everybody else does now. I'd love to hear from everybody, even if it's questions. You know, a lot of people are curious, and I don't mind talking about this. That's the only way to get it out there, and it's the only way to inform people is to talk. And I'm ready to talk.
All right, great. Any word on that book that you were going to start writing?
Yeah, I'm waiting to kind of bat some things around with a certain person who may be co-writing with me.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, and it could be a lot bigger than we had initially planned. So
Right.
It's a little bit on hold, but that's good because it could be something that blows up a lot bigger than we first thought. So
Awesome.
I'll keep you guys posted on that too. I should know something pretty soon.
Okay, awesome. Cindy, I'm going to let you go and give the server to Alan, but it's been great talking to you once again.
You got it. All right, Tim. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Cindy.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night. You've been listening to the Supernatural Realm on the Z-Talk Radio Network, and unfortunately, it's time for us to fly. Hope everybody enjoyed the show, and be sure to tune in each and every Friday right here, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern on the Z-Talk Radio Network. Good night, everybody.